In this lecture, we'll learn about a few more topics. First of all, let's learn about transposing. So let's import Tensorflow and create one vector first. And check the vector and do transposing on the vector. And we can do that using the transpose method. And we see there is no change in the vector. So what is a transpose? Let's search for it. According to Wikipedia, in linear algebra, the transpose of a matrix is an operator which flips a matrix over its diagonal. So we can understand it's about flipping diagonally. That's why we can run transpose on matrix and tensor. So let's create one matrix. Shape, let's say 2 by 3. And 50 and 10. Execute it. Check the matrix. And transpose the matrix. And just run the program to test. And we can see the matrix has been transposed. It has created a new matrix column by column. It has picked every column and created a new row. So for our better understanding, let's create a matrix using constant method. tf.constant, add value, add another row, change the value, assign it in a variable, execute it, check it, and transpose it. And we can see it has picked elements column-wise and created a new matrix row-wise. Now let's add a new row. Execute it, check it, and transpose it again. And we can see there are 3 rows in our main matrix, but after transposing, it has converted into 2 rows. Because there are 2 columns in every row, so it has picked data from every column and made a new row. That's why in every row we can see 3 data or 3 elements. Now let's split an array. So let's create one vector with 20 elements. Take the vector and split the vector. And we can split any vector or matrix or tensor using the split method of TensorFlow. So tf.split, pass the vector or matrix, whatever it is. So pass our element, and then we have to pass the size of the splits. And we have to pass it as named argument. And it's num or size splits and equal to the number of splits we want to do. We want to split this array into 2 sections or 2 new arrays. And then we have to specify axis. Because it's a vector and there is only one row, so we will say 0. Okay, I misspelled it. It will be num or size splits. And execute it again. Okay, we are getting one more error. So let's recreate the vector. Check it. And okay, it's my mistake. instead of passing vector, we're passing x. So let's pass vector here and execute it again. And we can see our array is split into 2 pieces. What about 3? And we're getting an error. It's saying number of ways to split should evenly divide the split dimensions. It means the number of elements, the size of the elements, must be divided by the size of the splits. So what is the size of our elements? tf.size and vector, we can see it's 20. Is it divisible by 3? Let's try it. 20 modulus 3. If we get 0, it means it's divisible and we can get the number of splits. And we're not getting 0. What about 4? And we're getting 0. So we can split into 4 arrays. Execute it and we can see it. The array is splitted into 4 arrays. Now let's create one matrix and split it. Assign it in a variable. I'm naming it matrix. Execute it. Check it. And split it. The matrix at first argument, number of splits, let's say we want to split it in 2 parts, in 2 arrays, and axis. Let's say we want the axis 0. It means row wise. So execute it and we can see it has splitted into 2 arrays and it has splitted row wise. What if the axis is 1? Then it will split column wise. And we're getting an error because there are 3 columns and we're trying to split it into 2 groups or into 2 arrays. And we know 3 is not divisible by 2. So if we want, then we can split it into 3 arrays. Now let's create a new matrix. And this time let's change the shape, make it 4 by 5. Execute it and try to split it. But before that, let's check the matrix. And we can see there are 4 rows and 5 columns. It means we cannot do much split using column wise, but we can do much split using row wise. Because there are 4 rows, so we can split into 4, 2 and 1 rows. So axis 0 split 1, and we can see it has splitted into 1 array. It means same to same. Now split 2, then it has splitted into 2 arrays, and the number of split is 4. And we can see it has splitted into 4 arrays. What about axis 1? Can we do 4? Of course not, because there are 5 columns, so we can split into 5 arrays. And split into 1 array. But if we make it 12, and let's say it's also 12. Check the matrix, it's huge, and if we want column wise, then we can divide by 2 and split into 2. Okay, we can see it has splitted into two groups or two arrays. Also, we can split in three arrays into three arrays. We can split into 4 and 6 arrays. And same goes for row wise. Into 4 arrays, into 3 arrays, and into 2 arrays. Now let's reverse an array. So let's create one new vector. Take the vector and try to reverse it. The reverse method takes axis in second argument. So we can say axis equal to, and we have to pass the value as list. Let's say 1 first and see it. And we can see it has reversed. It has reversed perfectly. What if we pass 1 here? And we're getting one error. It's saying 1 is out of valid range. Now let's create one matrix. Check the matrix and try to reverse it. Let's pass axis 0 first and execute it. And we can see it has reversed perfectly. What if we pass 1 for axis? Let's try that. And we can see it's working perfectly. Now let's try 2. And we are getting the same kind of error like previous time. Here we are getting 1 is out of valid range, and here we are getting 2 is out of valid range. Now let's check the dimension of our vector and matrix. We can see the dimension of vector is 1. What about the matrix? And it's 2. So the axis value will be up to dimension. If the dimension is 1, then it will be up to 1, means maximum 0. If the dimension is 2, then it will be up to 2, means 0 and 1. Now let's try to understand how it's reversing based on axis. We can see it's our original matrix. And when we're passing 0 for axis, then it's reversing column wise. And when we're passing 1 for axis, then it's reversing row wise. Now let's try to create one tensor. Check the tensor and reverse it. The tensor and axis, let's pass 0 first. Okay, it's working perfectly. Now let's try passing 1 here. Working perfectly. Let's pass 2 here. It's also working perfectly. Now let's pass 3 here. And this time we are getting same kind of view. Now let's check the dimension of our tensor. And we can see our dimension is 3. So our axis will be up to 3, means 0, 1 and 2. I hope you guys have understood the fact of axis. Now let's look at these three outputs and try to understand the difference. This one is our main tensor and this one is our first reverse. The axis is 0 and we can see it has just reversed the dataset. And when we have passed 1 here for axis, then we can see it has reversed row-wise. And when we are passing 2 for axis, then we are making change row-wise. Now let's check the tensor again. And try to sort the tensor using the sort method of TensorFlow. So tf.sort and the tensor. And we can see our tensor is sorted. So using the sort method, we can sort any tensor, matrix or vector.